Don't be afraid when facing uncertainty about the future, because there is one who always sees the bigger picture, knows exactly what you need, and never abandons you. Throughout my journey of preaching the gospel, I've encountered many moments when I could not possibly predict where the next step would lead me. Yet each time, I experienced an even deeper sense of God's loving and powerful guidance. Today, I want to share with you 11 essential points so that you can overcome fear, find faith, and hope for tomorrow, even when the present still seems very unclear.
Keep watching this entire video to delve into each of these points, to discover how God works through the unexpected, the hardships, the changes, and how He is preparing a future for you that surpasses your imagination. Let this message be a powerful source of encouragement, so that no matter what storm may be raging around you, you can continue to move forward with confidence.
The issue of fear of the unknown. I believe that fear is a very natural human reaction. Whenever we face something new, something beyond our control, we feel uneasy. And it seems that in this modern age, change happens so quickly that before we can adapt to the old situation, a new one is already upon us. Fear sneaks in, causing us stress, confusion, and sometimes even a desire to give up. But I want you to know that this fear is not permanent. You have the right to choose how to view it. You can choose to let fear become an obstacle that holds you back. Or you can transform it into a driving force to refine yourself and grow. In the Bible, there are many instances where people expressed fear or concern when God called them to do something beyond their capability. Moses hesitated, Jonah ran away, Gideon doubted. Yet in all of those stories, God did not blame them for being afraid. He simply wanted them to trust and surrender to Him. I also want to remind you that God is never surprised by our fear. He understands that we are limited, weak, and in need of a power greater than ourselves. Therefore, the first step to overcoming fear is not to blame yourself, but to look up and remember that we are not alone. God always walks with us. God already has a good plan for you. In life, we sometimes doubt, does God really have a plan for me? Dear friends, the answer is yes. The Bible affirms, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you." You may be standing in a foggy place, unable to see the way out, but God sees the entire landscape clearly. Try to recall your journey so far. How many times have you encountered unexpected turns? How many times have you faced obstacles that seemed impossible, only for things to open up later on? Looking back, you might recognize an invisible hand that guided you. Abraham in the Old Testament was called by God to leave his homeland, leaving behind all that was familiar. Did Abraham know exactly where he would go, how he would live? Number. But he obeyed, and God blessed him beyond anything he could have imagined. The contrast between fear and faith. Fear wants to hold you back, preventing you from taking action. Faith, on the other hand, calls you to move forward, even when you cannot see the entire path. Perhaps the clearest illustration of this is the image of the Apostle Peter stepping out of the boat to walk on water, Matthew 14:29. Initially, Peter kept his eyes on Jesus, so he managed to walk a short distance. But the moment he looked at the wind and the waves, fear swept in, and he began to sink. Many times in my life, I've asked myself, what would have happened if Peter had not been afraid? He might have continued walking on the stormy seas, confidently moving toward Jesus. But as soon as he took his eyes off the Lord, fear replaced faith. Dear friends, fear is always lurking. It whispers, You are not capable, you will fail. Meanwhile, faith reminds you, you have God. You can do all things through Him who strengthens you. Therefore, whenever fear comes rushing in, remember that you have a choice. Either let fear hold you back or allow faith to propel you forward. By choosing faith, you place yourself in a position to witness God's power at work. The waiting period. Waiting does not mean God is silent. One of the hardest things for humans is waiting. In our modern world, everyone wants immediate answers, instant solutions. We want quick fixes. But God often gives us pauses, waiting periods that can feel endless. In such times, we often mistakenly think, perhaps God isn't listening to me. Maybe I'm not praying enough. Or worse, we think God has forgotten us. But friends, consider David's example. Anointed to be king at a young age, he had to spend many years fleeing, enduring hardship. However, those very years shaped David's character, leadership abilities, and relationship with God. And at the right time, David ascended the throne and became renowned for his faithfulness to the Lord. Waiting is never pointless. It's a time when God molds our hearts, teaches us dependence on Him, and builds a resilient faith. So do not be discouraged when you must wait. God's timing is always the perfect timing. God knows what you need more than you do. Sometimes in life, we pray for something that seems extremely urgent, incredibly logical. Yet God does not grant it right away. We grow confused. Didn't God say, "Ask and you shall receive"? But God sees what we cannot. He knows whether that thing is truly good for us and whether it is good now or requires more time. The Apostle Paul once experienced this. He had a thorn in the flesh. He pleaded with God to remove it, but God answered, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Instead of taking away the pain, God used it to manifest His power and to strengthen Paul's faith. Dear friends, perhaps today you are praying for a door to open, but it remains closed. Don't lose hope. Maybe there is a better door waiting, or maybe God wants to refine you just a bit more so that when the real opportunity comes, you'll be ready. Only God knows what is truly best for His children. Hope founded on God's promises. God never changes, and His promises stand firm. Many people come to me and ask, "Pastor, I see no hope in my current situation. Is there any chance left for me?" My answer is always, hope does not depend on circumstances. Hope rests on the unchanging promises of God. When the Israelites were enslaved by Pharaoh in Egypt, everything looked dark. Yet God had promised to deliver them, and He did. He parted the Red Sea, led them through the wilderness, provided manna, gave water from a rock. All these fulfilled His promise to free them and bring them into the promised land. The Israelites' hope was ignited by what God had spoken, not by their own strength or strategy. Likewise, you can cling to God's promises even when everything around you seems to be collapsing. Because God has promised, "I will never leave you nor forsake you," you can keep walking forward in peace. Dear friends, hope is like an anchor, preventing us from drifting off in life's ocean and from being capsized by raging storms. Hold firmly to His promises. Embracing change as the doorway to greater blessings. People often prefer familiarity, wanting to control every detail. Yet change is inevitable, and God frequently uses change to open up great things. If Abraham had not left his old place, how could he have received the promised land? If Esther had been too afraid to enter the royal palace, how could she have saved her people? Perhaps God is shaking up your life, pushing you out of your comfort zone so that you can glimpse his true greatness. If we remain in our old shells, we cannot experience the miraculous new chapters. Change can be painful because it requires letting go of habits and things we're used to. But through change, we learn to trust, learn to let God take the lead, and believe that he is guiding us to a better place. Perseverance on the journey of faith. There is something extremely important. Never give up. Perseverance is the key to overcoming the toughest moments. God does not only care about the end goal, he also deeply values how you are shaped along the way. You might be in the midst of your own storm, a broken family, job loss, illness, financial crisis. Feeling exhausted and on the brink of collapse is understandable. But remember that if you persevere, God will transform your bitter circumstances into a stepping stone for victory. Sometimes your perseverance will even pave the way for those around you to witness your faith and be encouraged. Letting go of false control and trusting God completely. I want to share a short story. Once, I was on an airplane heading to a preaching engagement. A few minutes after takeoff, the plane started to shake violently due to bad weather. Even though I was accustomed to flying, I still felt a bit anxious. Then I suddenly realized no matter how worried I got, I could not control the plane. The pilot was the trained professional, and above all, God is the supreme ruler. Our lives are no different. We think, if I can just manage everything, I'll be safe. In reality, that sense of safety is illusory. This life holds countless factors beyond our control. What we can do is trust fully in God, who governs the universe. When we let go of our schemes, we experience a marvelous freedom and a profound peace, knowing that he has never failed and will not fail. God always invites you toward greater plans. I recall Joseph in the Old Testament, sold into slavery, falsely accused, thrown into prison, yet he ultimately rose to the position of governor, using wisdom and understanding from God to save an entire people from famine. Imagine if you can. When he was still living at his father's home, Joseph could never have dreamed of reaching such a pinnacle. But God had a plan that far exceeded his understanding. Joseph's story teaches us that even if, at the moment, you only have small dreams, God can breathe into them an even greater vision, so that through you, many others can be blessed. Ephesians 3:20 says, God can do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine. Hence, never limit your life by what your eyes see. Open your heart and say, Lord, I believe you have even more wondrous things for me. You are never alone. Finally, and this is the solid foundation for everything we have discussed, you are never alone. Life can make you feel isolated, particularly when battling adversity, or when there seems to be no one to share your burdens with. But God is right there, closer than your very breath. Recall Moses. When God called him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, he was terrified and said, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh?" God did not respond, "Oh, Moses, you're more than capable." He simply said, "I will be with you." That is a precious promise. God's presence by your side is sufficient for every season, every task, every hardship. Today, you also have that same promise. When you feel lost or hesitant, lift your eyes and say, "Lord, I know you are here with me." Life can sometimes feel like a voyage across the sea. We sail through calm waters as well as stormy oceans. No one can guarantee that tomorrow will be storm-free. But what we can be certain of is that God knows the destination, and He is with us every step of the journey.
Thank you for accompanying us all this time. If these words of advice have touched your heart, or if you feel uplifted or enlightened for the road ahead, please let us know by clicking the like button below to show your support. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any other meaningful videos in the future.